Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us on another amazing topic. I want to thank my sponsor, the Health Channel, All Health Goals. So please sign up for their newsletter at the Health Channel, allhealth.com newsletter, and the Against Genocide bracelet. So thank you everyone for joining us. And Carolina, it's a pleasure having you here.
Well, thank you for the invite. I really appreciate it.
So before we get on our topic on really why Portugal, tell us a little bit about yourself and what led you to become the Honorary Consul.
Okay, well, I guess it dates back quite a while. Okay, my parents I'm first generation born American of Portuguese parents. My daughter was born in Portugal. Okay, so that's a little bit a switch here, but have, all my entire life, I grew up in two countries, studied in both countries, and actually worked and lived in Portugal as well, but have always, in the times of growing up in Newark, New Jersey, which we used to call Little Portugal, all the immigrants were there at the time in the 50s and 60s. And we, our traditions, we spoke Portuguese at home. So Portuguese was my first language, even being born in North New Jersey. But we kept the roots, my dad always said that we honor and respect the country that opened their arms to us, but we never forget where we came from. And that has truly been my motto my entire life. And growing up in 9 months out of the year in a democracy, and then the other 3 months of the year under a fascist ruling government. So it kind of solidified who I have become over the years. And those of you that know me know that I'm very engaged in government and very engaged in doing what's good in nonprofits, because I always like the underdog, and I always watch out for that person because I consider myself an underdog for many years. So how I got to be Honorary Consul, well, again, Gladys, you know me, people call and say, oh, we want to have a meeting in Miami. Can you connect us to some people? And a lot of that was government requesting that out of Portugal, or other trade offices requesting that. And over the years, I said yes, yes, and always yes. And then all of a sudden, I realized that I'm being considered for Honorary Consul of Portugal for Miami. A huge honor for me. It kind of solidifies everything my parents taught me. And my parents were factory workers. They were not, they wrote phonetically. They didn't even write, they had really a very minor education, but they wanted to make sure my brother and I had a different lifestyle than theirs. And they were hardworking factory workers. And that's where I kind of got all this from them. So I think it was an honor. I was approved by the government to be the Honorary Consul, and that was back in 2019. And of course, then, I come in, take over, COVID hits, right? So so we did everything, we first opened up in Miami, the 1 week of service that we have in Miami, we opened up in July of 2020, when the embassies were still closed. We were open already, we were dealing with, the ships, all the crew members on ships that were out floating in the waters, passengers that were on those ships, repatriation back to that. A lot of work that an Honorary Consul doesn't do, but it fell upon me to do, and I did it with great honor and pleasure to help out people. So that's how I got to be an Honorary Consul. It's not a paid position, as some people think it is, but it's not. It's a voluntary position. And I do get to, once a month, I have a government employee that comes down here to work with me, and where we both work together, issuing passports, ID cards. I basically handle the flow of people that come in. We're seeing anywhere between 190 to 250 people in that 1 week, and dealing with anything and everything that comes in. So it's quite a big work. I'm hoping that at some point they decide to open a, I'll call it full-blown consulate office here. I think it requires it. We're at that phase in the process here that we're seeing so many people. And that in essence too, with the port here, the airport, you know, our flights are completely booked on TAP Airlines going outbound and inbound. We have tremendous cargo coming in from Portugal through the port of Miami with port agreements that exist with the port of Funchal and Madeira, as well as, which is one of our oldest ports, MOUs we have, and with the port of Sines, which is in the southern part of Portugal, which is the first entry really into Africa from Europe. So it's one of those great connections that we have with Portugal, and we're looking to do more MOUs right now with other ports with Miami.
That is really amazing. And I know that you've had an amazing career throughout your life.
I you know, came from Portugal, went to work for a company called Omni Offices, which was doing shared workspaces in 1979. They were based out of New York City, and I was in Houston. I went to work for them as a bilingual secretary, because I was, at that time, I could take dictation in 4 different languages and typed 110 words a minute. And I'll tell you a really quick funny story was that the first time I had a computer, I busted every key on that computer because I hit the keys so hard.
I remember that.
So, because, you know, I learned on those old Smith Coronas where the keys that, okay, so yes, it was very interesting. But yes, I've had ups and downs in the business through real estate, but at one point had 16 locations of shared workspaces, was way ahead of my time when we came to Miami. IBM and Darby Tech Ventures was my partners. We opened the first incubator in 2002 here in Coral Gables, actually where I'm still office today. All right, and that was the first, we had a $24 million fund. Imagine that in 2002 for the .com era out of Argentina and Brazil and Colombia, okay? And that's what we did. And from there, I just kept expanding again, you know, lost my Brickell Center at Espírito Santo during Wilma. That got blown away. Everything sucked out of there. So, you know, we've had some good years, bad years, but you know what, I think if you just stay on course, things work for you, and, you know, just tell the truth and keep it going. And basically, that's what I've done. It's like, you know, they say, how's your day today? Well, it's too early to tell. That's what I usually say if they ask me early in the morning. But, you know, I've always had great staff, and staff that still to today I work with on special projects, and that means a lot to me. So, you know, I came here to do a consulting job in 2000, and here I am now in 2022, still in Miami. So. Go figure.
Back and forth. So now back to Portugal.
Yep.
I wanted to start with the passports that were given to the Sephardics. That was in conjunction with Spain and Portugal. That created a lot of opportunities for those in the Jewish faith that were Sephardic.
Right.
And so tell me a little bit about that, because you were also overwhelmed by the number of people that.
Yeah, so I will speak, as I told you prior, I'm not a career diplomat, so I cannot speak on behalf of the government. So, you know, maybe sometimes I get in trouble for these things, but, you know, it's nothing, it's public knowledge that Spain and Portugal offered citizenship to the Sephardic Jewish community, as long as they could prove lineage and ancestry dating back to when they were pushed out of the country, out of those countries, right? Right, exactly. So That being said, Spain shut it down a couple of years ago. Portugal continued it. It's now being also shut down in Portugal. It's in this final phase right now. But we, in the past, I mean, during the course of this year, the numbers that came out were either somewhere between 77 to 79,000 passports that had been issued globally in Portugal, right, as a whole, of people coming into the country and getting those and receiving those passports. It's a long process. It does, people get frustrated with us. We really just can't do anything. That right now, it was at one point we were accepting some of the forms here. That was all taken away from us in the beginning of the year. That only can be done now through the US Embassy, through the Portuguese Embassy in Washington, DC, or in Portugal directly with our registry, our Registros Centrais, right? So I think it's, I think one of the questions you asked me earlier was, are people moving over there and living there? And that's not happening. I mean, some, very few, okay? I think most of it was, on a personal view, okay? Most of it was more entitlement, okay? People felt that for their ancestry, they were doing this and getting the passport. Others, I think, are more to be able to travel throughout Europe with a very strong passport, with this Schengen passport out of Portugal, which gives you really access to everything over there. And so for some people that only were carrying a passport of one country, that would require visas to get into other countries and things of that nature in Europe, I think this is a way that they saw too, that they would have more flexibility. But it's something I think that, I think it's happened everywhere, our Portuguese ex-colonies as well, when we gave back the colonies of Africa and all, people that were born there had the right to have Portuguese passports as well. Last year or 2 years ago, they extended to grandchildren, okay, but it has to be immediate, like it can't be your great grandparents or anything like that. But it's amazing because we're starting to get people that are what we call Luso-Americans, right, that were born here of Portuguese parents, such as myself, that are requesting their passports, and they're in their 60s and 70s. But all of a sudden they want a passport. And then, it's like, okay. And then they go, but we want it now. And we're like, it's, you didn't want it for 70 years, okay, or whatever. But, and so we have to be, I have to be very diplomatic in that aspect. Is like, you have to be patient. We're a small country. We're a country of 10.5 million people. And, prior to COVID, I think it was 2019 or it probably was 2019 yet, or it could have been 2018. I'm not sure on it, but we had 1 million Americans go to Portugal. 1 million.
No, I know this. Portugal is getting a lot of tracks.
Yeah.
For example,
we're a safe country. It's a safe country. It's an affordable country. The major cities, to me, I'm starting to feel the pinch that they're not as affordable as they were even a year ago or 2 years ago. We've seen the price hike in Lisbon and in Porto and the key markets. In the rural villages yet, where I'm from is the northern part of Portugal, a place at the district of Aveiro, where it's an old fishing village called Torreira, where we literally still eat off the land and out of the sea. And we have the little, what we call tascas, are really small restaurants, family owned, that we eat well, and, for 20 euros with everything included and enough food for 2 or 3 people. So, but that's in the rural areas. But we're starting to see, all these people coming to Lisbon and coming to Oporto have really increased the rates for the people locally living there. When you're looking at a base salary in Portugal, the minimum wage, basically the base is 800 euros a month. You can't live on 800 euros a month. So you have 3 or 4 generations living in one place. So, grandparents, parents, kids, and now grandkids, and that's something we see here too, right? And it's not just cultural, it's actually the cost of living is so high that you have to do that. Whereas in, when I was growing up and my friends, we all were able to have opportunities to purchase a place to live and stuff. Right now, the
Or
prices are
even rent
astronomical.
by yourself and
Or
not
we could
living
rent,
in a
exactly. But now it's super expensive, and I think that's where the government has been trying to leverage that out. Internationalization, globalization of a country, or of a if you look at a state level or a country level, it comes with pros and cons. It comes with, yes, you're going to get a lot of new talent in here, and yes, you're going to get a lot of movement, but the local people that may not have that education on that talent level are going to suffer, because they too don't have the wages that some of these people are being offered. So
You told me that there is a large number of women
oh yeah,
key
we have some.
government positions and that it has made all the difference.
Well, I think so. I think they bring, okay, here, I have to mince my words, okay? I've really had an opportunity to work with some of them. I'm actually meeting with some next week again when I go back to Portugal again on the 28th. Is that they're forward thinking, all right, very forward thinking. Some of them are late 40s, mid 50s, some slightly older. But with they're coming from strong backgrounds. They're all highly educated, but coming from strong backgrounds of inclusion, all right, which I find really interesting, and inclusion and diversity as well. You're starting to see that happen, and it's going to take time. It's not overnight that this happens, but they're taking their post. We have a phenomenal Minister of Labor. Godinho is her name, Dr. Godinho, are the woman that's heading up Fita Marques, that is Minister of Tourism, amazing woman. I mean, she is all over the place on tourism, and obviously she's doing a great job. And so we have some in other positions too. I don't want to massacre the title with the ministry, but what's happening is that I see, looking from the outside in, and having been back and forth to Portugal for my entire life of at least 70 years, I see that I see the difference that's starting to take place. You hear the conversations that are going on amongst people my age or younger. I tend to work with a lot of people in their between 30, 55 age group, so they see a change, and so I think that's when you have some of our secretaries of state are all in their 40s. That's like amazing, because those are key people that are out there. They're the boots on the ground for a lot of the ministers, and I see a difference. I see a difference in the government that is also making a difference. And then of course you're starting to see we've become a tech hub in Portugal. Primarily Lisbon is huge, and we're starting to see that thanks to Web Summit that that has brings in 75,000 people to that one conference. I was privileged enough last year to have the remote worker stage for 3 hours, which I got to see anybody and everybody from Brad Smith with Microsoft come in and talk about how Lisbon has changed, and why Microsoft is there and why other companies are there. And it's because we have a tremendous workforce there, a talented workforce that's not very expensive compared to what you would have to pay for them here. And so part of, I think, the strategy too is getting remote workers to work out of Portugal with US-based companies. They can do that. I mean, it's been done for years with India and with China and everything, but Portugal is the perfect country for that. The majority of our workers, of our students and engineers and everybody else that has been educated in Portugal speaks 3 to 4 languages. Okay, so
it's an even bigger advantage, because
it's a huge advantage. Okay, and so I think that's something that the government is looking at really well, And we're starting, I mean, I walk those streets in Lisbon now, and I hear American students all over the place. There are American students in exchange programs there. There's some that are considered nomads. The island of Madeira and the Azores have actually created a nomad visa for them to be working there. And so I think Portugal became very creative on how to re-energize after COVID. Okay.
Let me ask you something. With so many women in power, has the salary or the wages, are they equal to men? Or
well, there's like a salary. I mean, it's not equal to men yet. I think on that level, in certain fields, I think there's just what is it? There's a scale of what you earn in certain positions, especially on the government level. Everybody gets paid the same if you're in, whatever form of government you're in. On a individual basis, there are certain regulations, because there's a lot of what we call the sindicatos, right? That protect workers too. There's the Bankers Association, there's all kinds of groups out there. I think you're starting to see that it's getting there, but it's not there yet either. But and I don't think it's really as bad as what we've had here.
okay, so
Okay.
that shows that you're a little more progressive.
There you go.
I'm allowed to talk.
You're allowed to talk. Yes.
So let me ask you something. What about the opportunities? You mentioned me that if you want to expand your business, what are the opportunities if you're looking to expand into Portugal?
I think there's quite a bit. I mean, so what I'm seeing is like, I get a lot of requests here from people that want to do visas over there, people that have taken early retirement here during COVID, right? In their 50s and are looking, where do we go? And, of course, everybody wants to be in Lisbon and Portugal. And I tell them, I said, listen, we have such great transportation in Portugal. It's amazing. I mean, I train everywhere in Portugal because it's easy, it's clean, and you're there in no time, and you work along the way. But we do have good infrastructure, good roads. But I always tell them that, so we have it. I think Portugal has an opportunity right now that maybe they are or not taken advantage of. We have a tremendous amount of expats over there now. I mean, people that came out of tough, good positions here in the United States with major corporations that they still want to work, okay? And they still, so, as a consultant myself, I find that we bring a know-how to a country that, in a few years' time would have this know-how, but we have it now. We have a different work ethic here in the United States that we've worked on, especially our generation, right? And so we come with, if we can tell a company, that was tested and tried over 20 years ago, and it was fine-tuned to work this way now, and this is the way it works. That way it won't work, not even here, I think it saves them a lot of anguish along the way. So we're starting to see some people going back and trying to get positions within the universities on entrepreneurship programs and things of that nature. We're starting to see a lot of independent companies. I'm working with a few companies out of Portugal right now looking to come into the US market, and primarily Florida. They want to use Florida as that trampoline into Latin America, even though they are already doing work with Latin America and with other countries. To them, Miami is a comfort level for them because of the language. There isn't such a language barrier here.
Well, there is, yeah, and Miami is known as the second city of Latin America.
Yeah, well, aren't we the first? Aren't we the capital of Latin America?
Of course.
You have to come through to Miami to get there, right?
To get anywhere. Go to a restaurant and it's all the languages.
Yeah, exactly.
Who's from where, but that's what makes it interesting.
That's what makes it interesting. Exactly. That's what makes the diversity that we have. I think one of the largest selling points that Miami-Dade County has I mean, the Tri-County area as a whole. I mean, I think Broward, Fort Lauderdale is doing an excellent job with their stuff as well, with what their outreach, both through sister cities and through their alliance. ITC here in Miami is doing a great job. So I think the combination is great. And even when I bring in people from Portugal that want to do business here, those are the people I take them to as well, for them to get a bird's eye view. Right now where the bird's eye is not, I'd say it's a drone view of what doing business in Miami's like, okay? Because they're coming from a very structured work environment of how you can and can't do things, to a more relaxed but functional and open environment of work. So it takes a little time sometimes to explain that to them. Punctuality, follow-up is and follow-up is not 60 days from the meeting.
The middle ground from the rest of Latin America.
Yeah. So it's really interesting, and I'm having fun with it. But I think it's this is a new industrial age. The technology, everything is. We've gone through all kinds of changes. I've been working since 1970, basically. So I've seen the ups, the downs, the crises, the oil embargoes, the wars. I mean, so it's to be where I am today, I have my full faculties yet, that I remember a lot of stuff, right? And have really the energy I have, which my family finds it hard to believe that. I mean, so, but I find that we have so much to give, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's not something monetary or something that we're going to go in and help you build, but it's something that we've already seen maybe in another country, or something that you're working on is being done and developed already elsewhere. And how do we connect that so that two groups aren't struggling, but they work together and it starts becoming a larger component? And that's what we're seeing in Europe happening. We're seeing with as I call it, the invasion of the startups that are going into Portugal and in Spain, Barcelona, Bilbao, that, they all have great startups as well in Madrid, but they're all working together. They're not siloed anymore, okay? And I think this is a generation that doesn't silo, that is open now to community growth, and it's very kumbaya, okay? Very kumbaya. I love it. And to have lived this whole circle and see that everything that I've always done, I've always been very open, where people go, you shouldn't tell people. I remember in the workspace industry, I used to go up and tell them, this is what I'm going to be doing. This is how we're going to do it. And they're like, why are you telling people? Everybody's going to mimic you. And I'm like, go for it. The more, the merrier. I mean, because the more somebody's doing something good and something right, the better we all will be from it, right?
Competition is healthy.
Competition is super healthy. I totally believe in competition. So yeah, I think that's probably what I see, and it really warms my heart and makes me feel like, wow, this is really coming to fruition, and I'm seeing it from my granddaughters, and who are all in college now, and from my daughter, who was born there and actually at some point would probably go back to live there as well. I think it's important that they have these opportunities available to them, either in programs. I'm working right now with the U.S. Embassy in Portugal and the program Alliance of Women Entrepreneurs, where we're working, and the U.S. Embassy has this program spread out throughout the various embassies around the world. And companies such as myself partner up with another group, and we're going to be mentoring, but also bringing those some of those women that will be in that competition with us and who win the competition to come to the United States and work side by side with me here, and learning how to network, and learning how to do meetings, and learning how to approach a cold call, and things that they're not accustomed to. But they'll be working with someone like me who speaks Portuguese and understands their culture as well, but in a totally environment of their biggest wish list is the United States, right? So I'm so thrilled to be with that. I mean, I have worked on this for like 2 or 3 years to get in there, and I finally got it this year, and I'm like, yes, this is really going to
Good for
happen.
you.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. It's awesome.
Today there was an article in the paper
Uh-huh.
about how the women entrepreneurship exploding.
Yeah, exactly. And women are,
Men in entrepreneurship, so this is great.
and a lot of women in engineering. Out of Europe, there's a lot of women in engineering, okay, which is, I find fascinating. Like tonight, we're going to be, the Portuguese young professionals here are getting together because it's one of our patron saints of Porto. It's the big festivities in Porto today. It's a holiday. So we're going to be going to a Portuguese restaurant, having our grilled sardines amongst all these young professionals. Some of them are scientists, others are professional tennis players, others are at Microsoft and Google. These are all people that came from Portugal are working here in Florida, primarily in the South Florida region, that we get together once a month. I love their energy, and they also love picking my brain. And I think it's a lot of fun, not only fun, but we have a scientist at UM that is in her 30s, has been already at Johns Hopkins, has been all over on nano trauma, nanotechnology for research. Okay, and so this is what we're bringing here as well, and the fact that they're now going to Portugal, the American students, I think it will help America grow and be truly global in not only in work, but also in community growth. Okay, we have some issues in some states not accepting still, I think, that very openness that everybody can live together. I'm a firm believer that all of us can live together, and so I think through our youth, I think hopefully that message is really being conveyed now. So we'll see.
Carolina, thank you. This was a pleasure.
And I thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk. I could talk for the entire day if you wanted me to. But I love Portugal. And this background that you see, that's the Bay of Cascais outside of Lisbon, where all the little fishing boats are, and where I would say probably a third of the population there now are American expats. So.
And that's on my to-do list.
You have to do it, and call me for any information regarding where you should go. More than happy to tell you.
Thank you, and to everyone, until next week, and above all, stay safe. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye now.